Self-awareness helps you to notice when you're running on empty, allowing you to respond with patience rather than frustration. It also enables you to set healthy boundaries, seek support right away, and then navigate challenges without losing yourself in the process.
Hello and welcome to the Connect to Marriage podcast. I am Alicia and I'm your host for this episode. If you are new to us, do subscribe to our Connect to podcast on your regular podcast platform so that you can keep up with our newest episode and emerging content. In each episode, we'll be tackling questions that couples ask about marriage, communication, conflict, and so much more. So we hope you will keep tuning in to learn with us as you grow closer, deeper, and stronger in your marriage. Right, today we're continuing the conversation on the tough yet essential topic of supporting our spouses through depression. When a loved one is battling a mental health issue, it can feel like we're both in the middle of a storm. As a spouse, our role is crucial but is equally important to keep ourselves afloat. So in today's episode, we'll be discussing practical ways to offer support, recognizing the signs of burnout in ourselves, and maintain a healthy balance in our relationship. To share more insights into this important issue, we have on our podcast today Eliza Gan, Associate Counselor with Focus on the Family Singapore. Welcome back to the Connect to podcast, Eliza.
It's good to be back.
Now, before we launch into our conversation proper, can you share with us what do you do for fun or leisure?
Sure. At this stage in my life, fun is really about spending time with my husband, doing anything as long as we are together. Whether it's watching a movie, taking a walk in the park, test driving cars just for fun, or traveling once in a while. It's less about the activity itself, but really more about the connection. And I also love catching up with my sons and my daughter-in-law over the weekend, sharing conversations over dinner, and just enjoying time together as a family. And lately, I've picked up pickleball, which has been a great way to stay active without over-exerting ourselves. It's quite fun, quite a manageable sport, and more importantly, it gives us time together and stay engaged, not just physically, but socially as well. As I shared before, I've been a counselor for more than 15 years, and I'm really grateful that I still get to do this. I believe in the profound benefits of lifelong love, where two is better than one. But we do need to nurture that love. And even with difficulties that we face in life, we can face it better together when there's someone with you.
Last episode, we discussed some ways to support a spouse who's going through depression. If you've missed that, do tune into our previous episode to find out more. For today, Eliza, could you share with us what are some telltale signs that a supported spouse might be experiencing burnout or compassion fatigue?
Sure. Caring for a spouse with depression is really love in action. But it can also take a toll on us emotionally. And when you're constantly in a supportive role, it's easy to neglect your own well-being. So over time, this can lead to compassion fatigue or burnout, putting strain on the marriage as well. So how do we know when we're reaching that point? Let me share some clear warning signs. First, there's increased irritability. If you find yourself snapping a bit more, whether it's on your spouse, your kids, or even your co-workers, that could be a sign. Some people may not become irritable, but instead start shutting down emotionally, a form of self-protection where disengagement gradually takes over, making it harder to connect, empathize, or even being present in the relationship. Secondly, there's emotional and physical exhaustion. You might feel constantly drained, tired, no matter how much rest that you get. Maybe having trouble sleeping, or just feeling exhausted all the time. Stress can show up physically, maybe headaches or stomach issues, chronic pain may show up. And these aren't just random symptoms, but studies have shown that prolonged emotional strain can have a real effect on our body. Thirdly, losing your sense of self. I think this is important because your whole identity has become wrapped up in being the caregiver. Have you stopped doing the things that used to bring you joy? Do you feel guilty taking time for yourself? You might ask. And finally, you find that there's a cognitive overload, feeling that you never turn off your mind. You're constantly worrying about your spouse's well-being, even when you're apart. And over time, you may start feeling trapped, as if your own needs no longer matter. This persistent sense of helplessness and worry can fuel anxiety. And when stress becomes chronic, the tiniest decision can make you feel such a sense of overwhelm as well.
Now, if we notice some of these signs that you've described to us, Eliza, in ourselves, can you suggest what can we do? What are some first steps that we can consider?
In our previous podcast, I mentioned the word self-awareness. And I think this is an important aspect, self-awareness, because you need to recognize your own emotional limits before burnout actually takes a toll. So take note of these telltale signs, which I have just shared earlier on. And this is an area that's very well researched. And when there is emotional regulation and we're able to set boundaries, these are keys to maintaining healthy relationship, especially when one partner is struggling. Self-awareness helps you to notice when you're running on empty, allowing you to respond with patience rather than frustration. It also enables you to set healthy boundaries, seek support right away, and then navigate challenges without losing yourself in the process. Despite deeply loving your spouse, when burnout sets in, you may begin to withdraw, feel resentful, struggle with empathy. But instead of fostering connection and healing, this dynamic can create more emotional distance. So what can you do? Well, a few things that you can do. Get support, whether it's a trusted friend or see a therapist. Rebuild boundaries. Being there for your spouse doesn't mean neglecting your own needs. Prioritize self-care without guilt. Self-care isn't selfish. It actually makes you a more present and effective partner. And remember those small intentional steps, like setting aside your own personal time, maybe getting back to some social connection, or even engaging activities can recharge you. These small steps can, and you'll be surprised, make a big difference for you. So caring for someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. As I mentioned earlier, strong marriages aren't built on sacrifice. They are built on mutual care. By supporting your spouse while you're also tending to your own needs, you're not just helping them, you're protecting the relationship for the long haul.
Now, the truth is, many couples don't actually expect to face something as heavy as depression, right, Eliza?
Yeah.
So how does a strong marriage foundation help us in navigating these challenges?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, most couples don't expect to face something as heavy as depression. We all know that post-COVID, the rates of depression have increased and many relationships are feeling the strain regardless of the underlying cause. But the good news is that we know, based on research, that strong marriage foundation acts as a buffer during difficult times. Studies on what makes marriage thrive, even in difficult circumstances, shows us very clearly what it takes. That when we have that emotional connection, we build trust and a secure attachment, we will be able to hold marriage steady even when life throws challenges at us, like depression. So the key is to start building these foundations early so that when difficult times hit, your relationship really has the strength to withstand them.
You mentioned about how a strong foundation is important as a buffer for the storms that we may encounter in lives. Can you share with our audience what are some ways that we can lay this strong foundation in our marriages?
A lifetime of love and romance requires intentional effort and attention. Yet in times of busyness and with overwhelming priorities to tend to, our marriages can often take a back seat. No matter the state of your relationship today, we want to help you and your spouse thrive. Check out Connect 2, featuring specially created experiences and resources, our favorite selection of articles, top hits on our podcast, date ideas, conversation starters, and more to address the issues that are keeping you and your spouse apart, and to help you rekindle the joy of pursuing one another. Visit www.family.org.sg/connect2 today.
There are lots of literature out there that talks about how healthy marriage habits, it's really a foundation for resilience, right? Because we know that in the best of marriages, right, we do face challenges. And marriage can only be more resilient over time as we learn how to respond effectively to these challenges. Here are some of the common healthy marriage habits. Firstly, establish shared rituals of connection, something like date nights on a regular basis, or even simple tasks, daily check-ins with one another. Building a culture of friendship, fondness and admiration. When you have deep mutual respect and appreciation for one another, it becomes easier to extend understanding and patience and acceptance even in the face of challenges. For the caregiving spouse, this means recognizing that their partner's withdrawal or non-responsiveness isn't personal. It's a symptom of the depression, not a reflection of their worth or effort. This clarity helps prevent feelings of rejection or resentment from taking root. For the spouse experiencing depression, a foundation of trust and admiration makes it easier to accept influence, to believe in their partner's good intentions rather than feeling criticized or pressured. In many cases, this can even increase their willingness to seek help, knowing that their spouse's encouragement comes from a place of love rather than frustration. Then there's building trust and commitment. A strong marriage is built on mutual trust and a commitment to choose each other every day. This means resisting behaviors that erode trust, such as emotional withdrawal or allowing depression to dictate the relationship's course. Instead of surrendering to hopelessness, find ways, however small, to stay engaged, support one another, and reinforce the belief that they are in this together. Nurturing emotion and physical intimacy. Intimacy is built through emotional closeness and affection, not just physical touch. Regular expression of affection, appreciation, and small acts of kindness contribute to a higher relationship satisfaction, which is an effective buffer when hard times hit.
Thank you for all these helpful tips to help our listeners to know how we can really fortify this strong foundation in marriage. Now, in each podcast, we address a frequently asked question that couples may have about marriage. So today's question is from a husband. After the birth of our first child, my wife experienced postnatal depression. It has been 1 year, but she still seems to get overwhelmed and anxious easily. I'm trying to support her emotionally, but recently I find myself getting snappy and impatient, both with her and with our young child. Am I getting depressed too?
Supporting a partner with postnatal depression while adjusting to fatherhood is a huge transition. And it's completely understandable that you're feeling the strain. Well, there's some signs that tells you that you might be struggling with depression. Because while frustration and exhaustion are common for all new parents, if you find yourself persistently irritable or angry, not just occasional frustration, or a feeling of emotionally distant from your wife or your baby, frequent guilt or self-criticism, loss of interest in things that you used to enjoy, and maybe even physical symptoms, headaches, body aches, extreme fatigue that just doesn't improve over time. Also, avoidance behavior, spending extra time at work, trying to cope using that, zoning out, or withdrawing from family life. This could be some signs that you need to be on the lookout for. If it's not depression, it could be burnout or caregiver fatigue. Even if you don't meet these criteria for depression, chronic stress and emotional overload can lead to what is called compassion fatigue. When a partner is in distress for an extended period of time, the supportive spouse can feel emotionally depleted, leading to resentment, exhaustion, and difficulty regulating emotions.
Thank you so much, Eliza, for sharing these practical tools to help us to go the distance in supporting our spouse while also caring for ourselves. I especially like the awareness you brought to this thing called compassion fatigue that couples need to look out for, Eliza. Can you share what are some things that we can do?
4 things. Firstly, acknowledging what you're feeling without judgment. That's important. Check in with your own well-being. And of course, if possible, and this is important, to seek support for yourself, whether going for individual therapy or, talking to a trusted friend. And fourthly, reframe the idea of support for your wife as team effort, because supporting a spouse with postnatal depression can feel overwhelming, like carrying the weight alone. So instead of thinking, I have to fix this for her, try shifting your perspective to we are both adjusting and we need to support each other the best we can. So this mindset will foster the idea of a partnership rather than pressure, reminding both of you that healing is a shared journey, not a burden that one person carries alone.
Thanks, Eliza. I think it's not uncommon for new fathers to struggle emotionally, whether it's actually deeper depression or just maybe extreme exhaustion sometimes. The key is recognizing it early and seeking support before it starts affecting our marriage and family life, isn't it? So for our couples listening in who are actually in the midst of this struggle, Eliza, what would you say to them?
To remember that depression doesn't define the marriage, that healing is possible with the right support. Many couples have faced depression and have come up stronger. Remember that depression doesn't define the marriage. Healing is possible with the right support. And also practical hope-building habits that we need to have. For example, celebrate small wins. Recognize process no matter how small it is. Keep communication open. Even on tough days, keep saying, I'm here. We are in this together. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Therapy, support group, or even your faith communities can provide the strength for you. And finally, do invest in building a strong marriage before challenges hit.
Wonderful. Now, in each podcast, we often end off with a couple challenge for couples to do and share with each other. So, couples out there, if you're listening this with your spouse, here's your challenge for the week. Suggest one thing you can do together with your spouse to take your mind off the stress of daily living and mark a time in your calendar to actually do it. Remember that mutual care goes a long way to strengthen our marriages. So that's all we have for now. We hope you have found today's episode helpful. Do share this podcast with a friend who might also benefit from it. For more marriage resources, check out our latest articles via family.org.sg. You can also interact with us over Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, don't forget to take care of yourself and your spouse.